Hello, I'm Ashley Dodge, Pearson's Product Director for SciOps Services. Over the next few minutes, you'll learn about the SciOp model for teaching English language learners and why my colleagues and I believe that every school district in the country should be training their staff to use SciOp. First, some background. The Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol, or SciOp model, is a scientifically based framework for improving the academic achievement of all English language learners. It was developed to provide educators with a practical model of sheltered instruction and is used in hundreds of schools across the country. Pearson acquired the SciOp Institute in 2005 and today provides SciOp training at regional institutes and in school districts. Why is professional development in SciOp so important? Listen to Dr. Mary Ellen Vogt, one of the 3 original developers of the SciOp model.
Well, the challenges facing districts and states and schools and classrooms in the United States, one of them is the increasing number of English learners that we have in our schools. It's very interesting, and this was something that surprised me that I read recently through the U.S. Department of Education, that nearly 60% of students in American schools who are classified as English learners are native-born students. So these are youngsters whose home languages are not English, and yet they have been in American schools all their lives, and they still haven't acquired enough academic language in English to be successful in school. There are currently 4 states in the United States that require pre-service teachers to take instruction or to have instruction in how to teach English learners. This is a real issue because every state in the country is being impacted by youngsters whose first language is not English, and yet teachers are not coming out of universities well prepared and so that they know how to teach these kids.
If teachers aren't formally trained to meet the needs of English learners, students suffer. Meet Esther Smith, an instructional coach at Cherry Creek School District in Colorado.
A teacher came to me at the beginning of the year and said, I'm really having problems with Mia. She's so misbehaved. I observe Mia in the classroom. From my observations, Mia cannot understand the directions. And she's turning to her friends every single time there's a direction given for clarification. Given that she's also a 7-year-old girl, and a proud girl at that, she doesn't want to tell her friends she doesn't understand the directions. So what does she do? She starts a little conversation with her friends on the side. So the first thing I did with that teacher was we went in and we together did testing on Mia so that I could show her where Mia's language level was. And when she saw that, her perceptions of Mia changed from a misbehaved kid to a child who really did have language difficulties and wasn't understanding her directions. From there, our work moved into how can we work with Mia to up her language level and her functioning in the classroom. So that's where the SciOp lesson planning came in, and having that lesson planning was essential because I could go through and say, let's look at these components because we're going to move through these pieces, and as we move through these pieces, I think we might see some changes in Mia. Not only did we see changes in Mia, but we saw changes, people who didn't even know what we were doing saw changes in her school-wide, the science teacher, the PE teacher, the art teacher.
It's important to note that SciOp's development was funded through a grant from the National Center for Research on Education, Diversity, and Excellence, and that scientifically based research has proven its effectiveness.
The most important question that we needed to find an answer to when we were developing the SciOp model was to see whether, when teachers implemented the model to a high degree, whether it made any difference academically for English learners. That was the key question. Through a federal grant and over a 5-year period, teachers who were involved in learning the model to a very high degree were teaching the English learners, and we had pre- and post-test, empirically designed study. What we learned from this research was that when teachers implement the 30 features and 8 components of the SciOp model consistently, systematically, and to a high degree, the academic achievement of English learners is improved.
In the past decade, the ELL population in U.S. schools has doubled to more than 5.5 million students. And it's not just urban districts and border states that need help teaching these children.
In terms of the districts that will benefit from implementing the SciOp model, there seems to be no one profile. There are very, very small districts that have very few English learners that have implemented the model in order to help those youngsters achieve better. There are also huge districts in some of the border states, California, Arizona, Florida, Texas, that have implemented the model because their numbers are not only growing, but represent a huge proportion of the students in the schools. So districts throughout the country are adopting the model because it's the only empirically validated model that there is that has been shown to improve the academic achievement of English learners.
There's nothing out there like SIOP, and as SIOP trainer Martha Trejo will tell you, Pearson's professional development program for SIOP is unique also.
What makes the SIOP different as a staff development is that it provides not only the teacher but the administrator a common language. When administrators go out and make their observations, it's so much easier to speak to a teacher if they both use the same terminology. So now you have a common language. It spreads because then teachers begin to use the common language in the different places where they talk, in the lunchroom, in the lounge, outside in the parking lot. So it creates a new culture. It creates a new language so that we're now focusing on the instruction where we need to focus and not many times on the social issues or the negatives.
Successfully implementing SIOP requires that educators change some of their practices and devote additional time to learning and adopting the model. But as my colleague Amy Washin, another SIOP trainer, says, there are no shortcuts when it comes to teaching English learners.
The most frequent questions we get from teachers, it just starts with the basics: time. You know, where am I going to find the time to implement 30 features of the SIOP model into my classroom? And we try to address that with, well, do you have the time not to teach our students effectively? Because even though it takes some time to change your teaching practices, we're not going to get different results from our students if we don't change how we're teaching them. So we have to try and get them to come to the realization that they have to make the time to change their teaching practices in order to change the results they're getting from their classroom.
Pearson is deeply committed to helping school districts across the country meet the needs of English learners through SIOP professional development. And we are honored to be working as partners with the developers of the SIOP model.
We had learned from our research that unless teachers implement all of the features of this particular model to a high degree, we're probably not going to have the academic achievement with the English learners. So our concern was, will Pearson allow us to continue, and will they have the same passion and commitment that we do in making sure that there is clear fidelity to the SIOP model? It can't be an adapted SIOP, it can't be a sort of SIOP, it needs to be the full SIOP model. To our great relief and delight, Pearson has gotten this from day one. What this has to be is sustained, prolonged, committed professional development on the part of a district. Pearson has understood that from the beginning, and as our work together and our partnership has grown, we can see this in the district trainings and offerings that Pearson has created.
I hope this video has given you a framework for how SIOP can help you meet the challenge of teaching your English learners. If you have any questions about SIOP or Pearson SIOP services, please contact us.
I've seen 3 specific changes as a result of implementing SIOP at the junior high school over the last 2 years. First and foremost is we've seen an increase in student achievement, and that's been very evident as we look at the data from year to year. Secondly, I've seen more collaboration among our teachers. Teachers are sharing their best practices, they're sharing their results, they're always going back to the drawing board as to what will work best for our students to meet their diverse needs. But I think even more importantly is that it's keenly sharpened our focus on language acquisition. And language acquisition in the modalities of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Not only has it sharpened our focus and we've seen the benefit for our English language learners, but we've seen increases in student performance among other subgroups, such as our students who meet poverty levels and other minority students. So we're very excited about the full benefits that we get.